Welcome to Write Books That Sell Now, the podcast helping you write, publish, and market your book faster, better, and smarter. Here are your hosts, working hard and having fun doing it, Candace L. Davis, Anita Henderson, and Carol Dunlop.
Welcome to Write Books That Sell Now, the podcast that gives you real insight into the real business of becoming a successful self-published author. I'm Candace L. Davis here with my co-host, as always, Anita Henderson and Carol Dunlop. On today's show, we're going to discuss a part of the business that a lot of authors avoid, a part of writing a book that a lot of us try to avoid, and that is the behind-the-scene numbers of writing a book, the accounting and the finance behind it. And we have a special guest today. Bernadette Harris is going to share her expertise, not only as a CPA, but as a 3-time author herself. And she's recently published her latest book. But before we get to that, Anita, what's on your mind?
Let me tell you what's on my mind. Today, my mind is really vacillating and focused on this whole idea of, when you are challenged to do something that you've never done before. And I know Bernadette's going to share some stuff with us that she's doing that she's never done before. But I recently hosted a webinar all by myself. Like, did the technology, did the PowerPoint, did promo, all of that stuff, all by myself. And it scared the bejesus out of me. But I did it. I did it scared. And the reason I did it scared was because Carol Dunlop made me do it. You know how people used to say the devil made me do it? Carol Dunlop.
Carol.
That's right.
Carol pushed me. And I'm so grateful to her. I have to just shout out to Carol that she's just awesome. I really appreciate having people in my life who push me outside of my comfort zone. For those of you who have watched and listened to our podcast for a while, I am the least techno person among the three of us. Candace is laughing because she's right behind.
I'll give you a good run for your money, Anita.
Oh my God. I'd rather pay somebody to do all that stuff. It's just a headache. Really, just tell me what button to push, one button, and I'll show up and smile, and I'm good with that. But Carol said, no, Anita, you need to do this. You need to practice setting up the webinar. She walked me through it. She talked me through it. She held my hand. I felt like an idiot all the way through. Oh. I did, Carol, and I just really appreciate you explaining things to me like 10 times.
She always does that for us, though. She does that for us and for her clients. She'll explain it to you again.
She will. Like, it's the first time, and she's like, oh, no problem. I don't mind.
Exactly.
I know she was a great mom, right? To her kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
But doing it scared, and you always have to do that in business. If you don't do something scared in business and in life, you're probably not trying hard enough. You are probably not stepping outside of your comfort zone enough. You're probably not living up to the maximum potential that is inside of you. That comfort zone is just, it gets you nowhere. And there is just something about just doing something new, something uncomfortable, and then seeing it succeed to whatever success. If at the end of your scary experience, if the most you can say is that I did it scared, I think that's success. If, like me, you can say even more, which is that the results were awesome and you got some wonderful, measurable results that look great where you can give yourself 2 thumbs up, I think that's even greater. So, my chit-chat today is just about doing it scared. I had a client a couple of years ago who wrote a book, What's the Worst That Could Happen? And you really do have to ask yourself when you're in the midst of doing something scary.
I remember that book. That's a great book.
Candace edited that book.
That's a great book. I loved it.
If the worst that can happen is probably not the worst in life. You're not gonna die. Like, I wasn't gonna die.
Exactly.
If the webinar did.
You thought you would. You thought you would. Oh my God! Let me pull up some of those texts and emails.
I did. There were times, because you know what the scariest thing is? Oh my gosh, what if the technology doesn't work? What if I can't share my screen properly? What if, people can't see me or hear me? Because I can't fix it. Like, I'm not the troubleshooter person.
But okay, Anita, let me just interrupt you right there. Because I have been sitting in the audience when you were giving a presentation and your entire presentation went away. and you rolled like a pro. Like it was, it might have been a big deal to you, but for those of us in the audience, it looked like no big deal. So I know that even if your technology fails you, you can handle it.
I know, but that's live person, which probably for most people would be totally scary. But online, when you got like dozens of people watching you and waiting for you, like you got it all going on and they just know it's all going to be technology perfect. If I couldn't fix it, I would have been screwed.
You would have been fine.
For lack of a better word. Like I could handle that thing on Canvas if the PowerPoint didn't work, because I could talk myself through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that online thing, I was scared to death. I was like, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't happen? What if people don't show up? What if I can't see the chat? What if I can't help somebody figure out something? Anyway, it worked. I did it scared, and I was a boss. I slayed the doggone webinar.
Look at her. Oh my God.
If I must say so myself.
Tell us how you really feel, Anita.
I highly encourage you to, obviously the pre-training that Carol provided was extremely helpful to me. She reassured me of some stuff that I wasn't sure about. And even when I wanted to go against what she said, because I didn't quite trust the system, I trusted Carol. I didn't trust the technology. Carol said, Anita, just trust me. It's going to do what I say it's going to do. And it did the darn thing, and I did it, and it was awesome. So I encourage anybody out there who's watching, if there's anything that you want to do that you've never done before, get a little bit of help, as much as you need on the front end, and just go ahead on and do it, because really, what's the worst that could happen? You're not going to die from it. If anything, you'll learn something from it. So do it scared, child.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
I must say congratulations to Anita, because she graduated like a boss, for real. I mean, when she said when she said she did not trust the technology, believe me, she did not trust the technology one bit. We had to go through everything, and it's fine, Anita. I want to say that I'm so very, very, very proud of you for going through it, because most people would have just stopped and said, this is just too much. And you made a good point in the beginning, because I made you do it, because you needed to do it. And I want to say that out there to everyone who is contemplating doing some scary techie thing, because I know tech is really scary to a lot of people. The thing is, you can't train an assistant, a virtual assistant, a partner, anybody else how to do something that's for you, that you're doing. You have to own it and know, at least, even if Anita never does it again, at least she knows the steps, and she can at least tell somebody, this is this, this is this, this is this, and if it goes wrong, she knows what's happening without somebody trying to pull the wool over your eyes and say, well, this just happened because. You're like, I know this was supposed to go that way. So do it scared, get the help you need, and just do it, baby. Amen. So we're gonna get on with our guest, because she's going to be talking about one of the things that has me scared to death, and that is messing with my numbers and knowing all this stuff about, what my profit level is and what it isn't and all that good stuff. You think tech screws with your mind? For lack of a better word, I can't even think about numbers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that is one of my weaknesses. I fully admit it. My partners know it. My husband knows it. So I'm glad that we can have someone on here who can help me with it, because I believe it or not, the techie genius, the unmarketing shero, needs some help. And Bernadette is here to help us with that. So let me get right into, I am losing my place here because I'm talking so much. All right. No one recommends a bad movie, a bad restaurant, or a bad accountant. Mm-hmm. And since 2001, over 90% of her new clients have come from referrals. So that means Bernadette Harris is doing something right. She is the founder of the Efficient Entrepreneur Lifestyle and has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs across the country start, run, and grow thriving ventures through her speaking, coaching, and consulting programs. She is the author of the new book, Business Blueprint 2.0, a guide to starting and running a business the right way. He is the right way, not the wrong way, not the way that somebody else said, but the right way. He is a certified fraud examiner, a CFE, never knew such a thing existed, with a BS in accounting, an MBA, and an MS in fraud and forensics. Wow. She owns multiple businesses and is the founder of a nonprofit organization called Raising an Entrepreneur, a mentoring program for young entrepreneurs. Bernadette, welcome to the podcast. I am so happy to have you here. Girl, you are busier than I am. I Oh, I love it. I love it when I meet someone else who is doing just as much stuff as I am, because Candace and Anita will tell you that I'm just running like crazy. But I do get things done, and I know you are the type of woman. You're the type of woman that gets things done. Believe me, I've talked to this lady, and we've all met you when we were in Wendy Wise Income Acceleration Day, which was amazing. So congrats on the launch of your new book, Business Blueprint 2.0, Guide to Starting and Running the Business the Right Way. Tell us what led you to write this thing.
You know, I've been in business since 2011, worked with hundreds, probably close to thousands of business owners. And I kept seeing a reoccurring theme, like people were making the same mistakes over and over. So I thought, maybe if I write a book to teach people how to do it the right way, then less people will have to come to me after they've messed it all up. So that was the intent for the book. It's just to kind of give people a guide, because it's a book that grows with you in your business. So it gives you a guide on how to start the business. The first half of the book, it talks about starting the business. Second half of the book talks about running the business. And there are chapters that probably don't apply at some point in your business or some phase in your business, but as your business grows, then it applies. So I wanted to just create a resource for small business owners so that less businesses could fail, more businesses could succeed.
Awesome. I love that. Now, I know that you're in the midst of your national book tour. How's that going?
Okay, so she started it off with the perfect doing it scared, because I tell you what, I think about, some people make plans 5 years out, 3 years out. I can't plan that far in advance, because if you had this conversation with me this time last year, I would not be telling you, oh, next year I'm going to do a 16-city bookstore. So it just doesn't happen like that for me. So yeah, this is huge. It's scary, it's exciting, it's fun, all of those things kind of wrapped into one. But like Anita said when she opened the show, nothing magical happens in your comfort zone. And so, it's all about making things happen, and having new experiences, good experiences. And what better way to impact more business owners than to come to them as opposed to them having to come to you. So, yeah. So
Bernadette, how did you make that decision that you were going to not just launch in your hometown, but actually go to all these different cities? What allowed you to get past that fear?
Yeah, I just do stuff. Like when Carol was reading that, like if I get an idea, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. And I work on a plan to implement it. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I thought I wanted something better. I wanted something more than what I have. And so in order to have more, to do more, to be more, you have to be willing to before. So, yeah. So here I am.
Just do it anyway, right?
Yes.
So what's the
Bernadette,
of doing this book tour, this multi-city book tour? What's the scariest part?
The scariest part is probably if no one shows up.
No one.
Yeah. So that's kind of. But one of the things I do have people that I know people in every city that I'm going to. And so I'm going to be leaning on support from them. And some of the cities that I know the least amount of people in, those are the cities that are later on the list. So I'm hoping to build some momentum from the cities that I have lots of people. Like Atlanta is where I live. So that's a city where I expect to have a good turnout. Philadelphia, I went to college outside of Philadelphia, my undergraduate. So I have lots of alumni friends in Philadelphia. So I'm expecting a good turnout there. In fact, I'm speaking at my alma mater when I go to Philadelphia. When I go to Florida, that's where I'm from. And I picked West Palm Beach because it's kind of central to where two of the places that I live. So I live like 100 miles north of that and 100 miles south of that. So I'm hoping that they'll at least come. If I fly that many miles, they could come 100 miles.
I think so. I agree. Here's my advice to you, though, Bernadette. Don't worry about the people who didn't show up. Focus on the ones who do show up.
Yeah, and I've always, I've never been impressed or depressed by numbers. And so I've always believed that the people who are supposed to be there will be there. Those are the people who are there. I'll show up for 2 people the same way I show up for 200. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with this idea of this multi-city national book tour? Because, now that seems like that's reserved for celebrities like, Hillary Clinton or something. Not to say that you're not a celebrity.
Yeah, I'm on my way, though. Yes.
You're on your way, definitely. But how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, because I that's how I see myself. I see myself as this celebrity. And so I'm just, calling those things that are not as though they were, doing the things that I need to be doing to be to that level, because I believe that one day real soon, I will have that same status, so.
Amen. I like that. See why I like this lady? She is so we have to believe in ourselves. That's the one thing we were talking about, doing it scared. If you don't believe in yourself, who else will? And if you have this lofty vision of what you want and you don't put it into place, who else is going to support you? Because you have to be the one that believes that everything is going to turn out the way you want it to, and nothing otherwise, right? You have to keep on track with, because I do that when I put out a program or something, I just know it's going to be the bomb. And when it isn't, I am totally shocked.
Yeah, me too. Wow, they didn't buy this, So.
Yeah, what's wrong with these people? So what, now I know a lot of authors are, listening to this. Really, we have a lot of people who, when they listen to this podcast, they are taking multitude of notes, and they'll let us know, the best things that they learned here. So when authors are setting up their business, what entity types would you tell them to consider?
Well, this is general advice, so I have to say this because, when it comes down to accounting, I can't give, general advice that fits every single person. But generally speaking, I prefer the LLC. And the reason that I prefer the LLC is because the LLC has lots of flexibility. And the LLC can be taxed in multiple ways. So an LLC can be taxed as a sole proprietorship. It can be taxed as a partnership. It can be taxed as an S Corp or C Corp. And so being an LLC gives you that flexibility to do those things. And depending on your circumstances, of course, you want to consider your income level, your marital status, and all of the other pieces to your tax puzzle to figuring out which of those tax portions makes the most sense. And so if you started a business as Carol Dunlap LLC, even if you had to change your tax status, you don't have to change the name of your company. And that's the reason that I like the LLC, because it kind of gives you that flexibility. And one of the things, like I said in the book, is the LLC is like a chameleon. And so when it's on the brown branch, it turns brown. If it's on the green leaf, it turns green, because it can be whatever you need it to be. So if you need it right now when you're first getting started, if you need it to be a sole proprietorship because it's simple and there's not a lot of income, there's probably more expenses than income, or you're probably just breaking even or making a small profit, then the sole proprietorship makes sense. And as that business grows, and maybe you bring on a partner, or you go on this national tour and you sell like thousands and thousands of books, then we need to change your tax status. You can do that, and it's just a notification that's made with the IRS. Nothing changes. You don't have to change your business cards. You don't have to change anything. Nobody even knows but me and you that you've made that change. So that's the reason, because it gives you the ability to be any of those entities based on your situation.
So
I love that.
For authors, I don't think a lot of authors really see themselves as a business. They don't see what they do at the writing part and the author part of what they do as a business. Why do you say being an author really is a business?
It is. I mean, by definition, a business is being in pursuit of a profit. So, child, if you are writing this book, you need to be in pursuit of a profit. Now, whether you get a profit, whether you have a profit, that's a whole nother story. But the pursuit needs to be for a profit. And so if the pursuit for a profit is there, you are a business, my dear. And so we need to start looking at your authorship as a business.
So if there's an author, we call them authorpreneurs, someone who already has a business, and then they write a book. Do they need a separate business for their book, or do they sort of house that book aspect of what they're doing underneath their existing business?
It really depends. You don't. To answer the question, no, you don't have to set up a new business, but depending on what the goals and the objectives and the long-term, goals of your business, you might see it necessary to set up a separate business. Not require it. Again, it just depends. Some people run their book sales through their coaching or their training practice or whatever else they're already doing. And some people set up a totally separate business for that, for their the publishing of their book and things like that. So it really just depends. I have a separate company that's just for publishing. And so my books and the apparel and the things that we're doing all goes through the publishing company, and everything else is separate. But one, I don't have to pay anybody to keep my books and file my tax returns. So I understand some people probably don't want to have all those separate entities and tax returns.
Right.
But for me, it's not that much. So it depends on what the long-term goal of the businesses are. And whether or not keeping it separate, but it's not required. It's really about having a mindset that you are a business owner and you want to operate your business as a business owner.
So give us an example of why somebody would do too. Like you have your existing, you have multiple businesses. You're a serial entrepreneur, which we love. But give us one example of why an existing entrepreneur, business owner would choose to open a separate entity specifically for their book.
So I'll give you my reason. When I wrote my first book, my primary business was my accounting firm. And I did not want there to be a lot of confusion. Even though the book drove business to the accounting firm, I didn't want there to be confusion about that. And I also wanted it to be separate from the tax perspective, because filing a sales tax return, it just was more complicated when I had to consider when you file a sales tax return, you have to say, and we'll talk about that because I know a lot of authors don't even know that they need to be taking sales tax, but we'll talk about that. But filing the sales tax return was a lot more complicated when I was if I had to include all of my tax prep income and all of that stuff. So I was just like, the Georgia Department of Revenue does not need to know how much money I made filing taxes and selling books, because that income isn't taxable for sales tax purposes. So that was one of the reasons. And the other reason why I made the separation is when I think about the long-term goals of my businesses, are to have a separate identity from my businesses. So my businesses to have their own identity, and Bernadette Harris to have a separate identity from By the Book Accounting, or so that's one of the reasons. And there could be other reasons why. Sometimes if you are in a partnership, if you say, for instance, if you write a collaborative book, you might not want to run that through your current business, because then when you get to that full disclosure portion with your partners, now you have to disclose the part of the business that has nothing to do with them. So that's also another reason why you may want to consider keeping it separate. And there are probably lots of other reasons. It's really a case-by-case basis, but those are two really good reasons to keep them separate.
Okay, good.
Bernadette, you're making my head spin, honey.
I'm sorry. My goal is to keep it simple. No.
I mean, it's simple, but it is very informative, and it's very eye-opening, because Anita, Candace, and I went through this whole thing when we made our little bitty project, Write Books That Sell Now, into an actual business. We consulted an attorney. We did not know you then, but we know you now. But, even what she was telling us was making our heads spin. So just like Anita said, doing it scared, but sometimes you need some help to do it scared. You still may be scared, but you do need some help. So I'm glad that you brought that information out there. I wanted you to share with us some mistakes that you've seen that authors have made, and maybe some things that they could do differently when they're putting this authorpreneurship out there and putting their book out there. What are the mistakes you've seen them make?
So I kind of gave you a sneak peek. I already cheated, and I told you about the sales tax thing. So a lot of authors don't know that they need to be collecting sales tax. The only time that you don't collect sales tax is, one, if you live in a state that doesn't have sales tax, which there's like a handful of them. I don't even know. Yeah, I know Delaware is one, and I think Las Vegas is one. I'm sorry, Nevada. That's not a state. Duh. So I know those two states are states that don't collect sales tax, but most states do. So if you're in a state that collects sales tax, you need to collect sales tax on your tangible book. Anything that you sell that you can touch is taxable for sales tax purposes. So I see a lot of authors say, oh, my book is $20. And they just collect $20, and they don't realize that they need to be collecting $20 plus whatever the sales tax is. And that sales tax number is based on your county. And so wherever your business is located, even if it's your home office, like I live in Gwinnett County, so the Gwinnett County sales tax is 6%. Now, when I travel on this tour and I'm taking orders in other states, I will not have to collect sales tax because those sales will be made outside of the state of Georgia. So that's one mistake that I've seen people make as entrepreneurs. Then we know that there are budgeting mistakes. Sometimes they don't budget properly for the project. So it's really important to understand what the costs are when you're going into the project, and knowing a lot of those costs are things that you will have to foot the bill up front, because you're paying for all of this stuff up front before you actually even sell a book. So those are two really big mistakes that I've seen authors make.
Bernadette, I just wanted to ask, what's the general process for authors to file for that tax certificate? I think a lot of people are just afraid of the process because they think it's really hard or cumbersome. How do you file for a tax certificate?
It is not hard at all. Yeah, it's not hard at all. If you live in Georgia, the Georgia Department of Revenue actually has an online tax account where you can go online and get the number online, and it's pretty painless. It literally can take, it really is painful. Painless, sorry, not painful, painless. Yeah. And it literally can take you a few minutes to apply for the account. So it's just a sales and use number that you apply for. And I think that piece, Anita, you're absolutely right, is the part that kind of scares people. And then filing the sales tax return is also the part that they're, kind of afraid of. And again, that process is not painful either. Most states, I've filed sales tax returns for clients in other states. And I know that Georgia and Florida both have online systems where you can go online, and it really is, once your account is set up, you just go in and say, how much did you have in taxable sales? It calculates the sales tax number for you based on your county, and you just pay it. And so you just need to make sure that you don't spend that sales tax money when you collect it. So if that means putting it in another account or something, it's not hard. It's not hard at all. And those are definitely things that I can walk.
That's quarterly, isn't it?
Well, it depends. When you first get your number, you will more than likely be monthly. After a year of filing sales tax return, then they may change your frequency. And the frequency may change based on your activity. So if you're selling like 2 books a month, then they'll say, you know what, girl, you can file a tax return once a year. But if you're selling 200 books a month, then you need to be filing a tax return monthly. So you're after your first year filing monthly, then they may change your frequency, and it may go from monthly, it may stay monthly, go to quarterly or annually.
Wow, that's great information. And I have one more question for you before we take a quick break. What are some tips you can give authors on pricing their book? Now that you talked about they're not getting the sales tax, how can, what are the tips about pricing the book?
So when you're pricing your book, there are lots of things that you want to consider. One, you definitely want to consider what are comparable books in your genre selling for. Because it's probably one of the times when being a copycat is okay, because you don't want to outprice yourself. Like if books in your genre are selling for $20 and you got a $50 book, just look forward to not selling very many books, so, but it might not be a bad thing. At $50, you can afford to sell less books. So you may you definitely want to consider, And then you also got to consider the cost of selling your books. Like if you price your book at $20 a book, how many books do you have to sell before you break even? When you think about all the costs that you've put into it, your editor, your graphic designer, your web designer, your publisher, whatever the case may be, whatever those costs are, you want to consider that as well. And will your marketing plan support that? So some people, you have to decide what that number is. Like for me, the number is a little bit higher for me because I'm doing a national tour. So it's a lot higher for this third book than it was for the other two books. So you decide if that number is 100, okay, so you need to sell 100 books before you break even. So understand you haven't made any money until you sold 100 books.
I love that, Bernadette, because you're talking about budgeting stuff. And I think that a lot of authors miss it on budgeting. They have no idea how to, even once they start to make the investment in their book project, they're not thinking about how do I earn a return on my investment. We're going to talk about that when we come back from a break. We're going to acknowledge our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Write Your Life, helping professionals and entrepreneurs be an author, be an expert, be amazing. Write Your Life offers expert author coaching and book production services to help you produce a phenomenal self-published book you can use to leverage your business and your brand. Visit them at www.writeyourlife.net.
Get the Write Books That Sell Now free video training series. It's absolutely free, and you will learn a bunch of tips, tricks, and hacks from each of us to help you finally get your book done. In these free videos, we open the door to give you a taste of what you'll find in our high-value, information-packed online course. You'll get information on writing, publishing, and marketing your book, and it's all for free. To access the free video training series, just visit us at www.writebooksthatsellnow.com.
Okay, we are back with the Write Books That Sell Now podcast. Thanks again for joining us. We are here with the phenomenal, the incredible, the super fantastic on-tour author, Bernadette Harris. Her book is Business Blueprint 2.0, a guide to starting and running your business the right way. We're so glad that you are here with us, Bernadette. Before we went on break, we were talking about budgeting and return on investment. So, and you were talking about that this is a reality for you and a little bit different with this third book of yours, in that you've added a book tour, like a national book tour that you're actually going to different places with. So that's an additional expense or investment, as I like to call it.
Right.
What are some tips you have to help entrepreneurs effectively budget for their book project, and then how do they figure out how to earn a return on that investment?
First thing is you have to be real. You really have to be real with the cost.
Get real.
Get real. That's number one. Tip number one, be real. No. And so, really look at what costs are associated with this book project. And write them down. Like, what are the costs? What is it going to cost for you to have your book edited? What is it going to cost for you to have the cover made? What is it going to cost to have the book laid out? What is it going to cost to have your website created? And on and on and on, and whatever those costs are. And based on those costs, then you need to think about, is it realistic? Some people, what is the saying? Like, you have champagne taste with a beer budget.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Some people have these lofty ideas of what they want their book to look like and all of these things, but their marketing plan doesn't match the book. So okay, if you're going to spend thousands of dollars to create this book, let's see the plan. How are you going to recoup this cost? So when you're considering your budgeting and all those things, you definitely want to make sure that you've counted those costs, and you're very, very realistic about whether or not you're going to be able to recoup the cost. Now, Carol and I said it, when we roll out something, we just expect it to be a winner from the get-go. And so if it's not, it's like, what is wrong with you? And there's nothing wrong with, having that idea, having that attitude. But at the same time, you still have to kind of deal with some realism.
You do. And one of the things we talk about in the Write Books That Sell Now online course is actually earning a return on that investment. And you know this as well as anybody, Bernadette, that it's really more than just book sales. You should have a vision and just, I've spent $5,000 to get my book done and marketing and all these other things I've done. And so I need to sell X number of books at, $20 a book in order to get my money back. Well, that's a long road
right.
to travel.
Yeah.
Book sales is the only way you plan to earn money or to earn a return on your investment. What's your advice or some suggestions for authors to think beyond just book sales?
Right. You definitely have to, because if you are writing your book only to sell a book, then you probably shouldn't spend that much money up front.
Say that
right.
again.
If that's the
loud and proud.
Yeah, don't spend a lot of money if you're just writing a book. So it all goes back again to that marketing plan. Like, what is the purpose of this book? Like, the purpose of my book, of course, again, like I told you in the beginning, was to help businesses not fail. But that purpose also has speared into other things. So writing the book has given By the Book Accounting new clients, because we've gotten clients as a result of the book. Writing the book has given me, Bernadette, more speaking engagements, training events, and things like that. And so sometimes the return is not directly related to book sales, but the return can be in other avenues. And so you definitely have to look at it in totality. You have to look at the entire picture. So yeah, maybe you won't sell 100 books to break even, but if you get one speaking gig, will that pay? If you get a $5,000 speaking gig, will that pay for the investment that you had in your book? And if you got a $5,000 speaking gig, chances are you'll get another $5,000 speaking gig.
That's right. That's right. You touched on purpose, your purpose for writing the book, and I know that hits Candace right where she loves it.
I mean, reality is a lot of people start out and they don't have a purpose for their book. They may have a purpose for their reader, but they may not know what they want to do with their book. But I can tell you one thing, Bernadette and I are friends on social media, and my girl has had a purpose from day one.
Day zero, probably.
Her friends have both been very clear. In fact, a lot of her promotion is how we've gotten to know her better, because she shares a lot of her knowledge in her social media marketing. And when you see it, you want the book, because you can tell this is an actual expert who's written this book and who's posting all these things on social media. But I want to talk to you, Bernadette, about something that's near and dear to my heart. I think about it every time I'm traveling and every time I have to purchase something for my business. What can we authors deduct as expenses and not get into trouble with the IRS?
Right. Okay. So here's the tax code says that in your business, you can deduct anything that is ordinary and necessary for your business, right? Real vague, right? What in the world does that mean? So my break it down explanation. Ordinary means that it is an expense that is ordinary for authors, for anyone in your business. If you went to a conference, a convention with a whole bunch of you would say, I bought XYZ, and someone else would say, me too. So those are the ordinary expenses. Necessary expenses, however, are a little bit different, because necessary expenses are the expenses that are necessary for the way that you do business. Mm-hmm. So you may do business a little bit differently from other authors. You may do things that other authors aren't doing, but because it has a purpose for your business, remember we go back to that pursuit of profit, and so it because it lines up with your purpose for your business, it becomes a necessary expense. So this is the example. I'll give you a sneak peek. This is in the book, and this is the example that I always share when I'm teaching this lesson to workshop attendees, is when I think about ordinary expenses. So I'll just use my accounting business as an example, and you can fill in any business here. So with an accounting business, it isn't ordinary for me to buy tax software. So when I go to events with a whole bunch of other accountants and I say, oh, I get my tax software from XYZ, they will say, oh, I get mine from there too. Or they'll say, I get mine from here. That's an ordinary expense. If I owned a sports bar and I bought a whole bunch of flat screen TVs, that would be an ordinary expense for a sports bar owner. However, as an accountant, if I bought 50 flat screen TVs, not necessarily ordinary. And so you see how an ordinary expense can be ordinary for one business and not for another business. Mm-hmm. Same thing when you talk about necessary expenses. With my business, with By the Book Accounting, we are very intentional about developing relationships with our clients. And especially now that because we work with our clients virtually, it's really important to us to get to know our clients. So each year I host a picnic. I have a client appreciation picnic. I get a pavilion. I cook up a lot of food. I'm not cooking no more. I'm getting tired of cooking. I think I'm going to cater it next year.
Yeah, there you go. Invite us.
But I cook up a lot of food. We have music. We have games. I always try to get the pavilion next to the playground. People bring their kids, their grandkids. Kids leave exhausted. The parents leave happy because they go sleep on the way home. The adults kind of mix and mingle. They meet new people. And it's an opportunity for us to get to know our clients on a more personal level. Because this is important for me in the way that I do business, this is a necessary expense. When I go to my accounting conferences and things like that, my colleagues are not hosting picnics for their clients. And so it's not ordinary, but for By the Book Accounting, the way we do business, it's necessary. So that's kind of the blanket response. That's the response that kind of saves me. And I don't have to rattle off a long, long list of things, because if you can make it fit without being crazy and too creative, you can make it fit into one of those categories, then it more than likely is deductible. I definitely say speak with your accountant to get clarity, to make sure it's not something that's going to cause you an audit or question with the IRS. But that's the rule. That's the way the tax code is written. So the tax code does not say you can deduct advertising, you can deduct printing, you can deduct your business license. It doesn't list all of those things. It says that the expense just needs to be ordinary and necessary. That's my long definition of what can I deduct.
It's one of the best explanations. One of the best explanations I've gotten, because most people just tell you it's ordinary, necessary, and leave it at that. And I have no idea what that means.
Right.
I do now that you've explained it. So I appreciate it.
And it varies from industry to industry. So of course, when I'm on my book tour and I'm going, staying and some of the book tour, we're doing some fun stuff. So in some of the cities, I'm actually renting a whole house and I'm going to host a book signing at the house. So of course, that's a necessary expense, renting that house. I need that house so that I can host my book signing, and so, and everything that I spend to make sure that that book signing is fun and memorable and all those things will be deductible. Because it's necessary for my tour.
Very good. Very good. So you talk about some of those expenses that we might incur. How do we make sure we're doing our record keeping properly, right? We've all heard about the business owner with the shoebox full of receipts that they've saved that they hired. That's probably not the best way to do it. Give us
no. Please don't mail me your receipts. I don't want them. I don't want them. I am a big component of QuickBooks. Like, I believe in QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks, and I get absolutely nothing for saying this. But I really like QuickBooks because it's a very good software. It's very, very easy to use. It's easy to mess up too, but it's easy to use, especially if you have proper setup and training. And I like QuickBooks because it will help you to keep track of all of those things without the shoebox. And I know that there are some people that are, finance gurus that say, spend cash because you can budget better and all that. And I'm just kind of debunking all of that. I say use your debit card so you can track it, because I have a hard time tracking cash. I have some cash right now that I'm running to the bank as soon as we get off this call to go deposit it. Because if I keep that cash in my wallet, I will not know where I spent it. But if I swipe my debit card at Office Depot, I know I bought office supplies. And one of the things that QuickBooks does is QuickBooks has like an integration where you can download your transactions from your bank, and it just makes it a whole lot easier from the data entry side of keeping track of your income and expenses. And so that's my best example. So if you are if your budget is a little funny right now and maybe QuickBooks isn't in the budget, there's a free tool that I recommend, and it's not as good as QuickBooks, but it'll do, and it's called mint.com.
Oh yeah, I've used that.
Actually, it's made by the same company, Intuit, that makes QuickBooks, but it's free. You can use mint.com. I actually use mint.com for my personal stuff. Well, I use it for everything because I'm a tracking freak. Like I love tracking stuff, and it's an occupational hazard. But mint.com is awesome because it really does require you to do very, very little. And so it can track all of your expenses, and at least you can get a semblance of a report to say that I've spent X number of dollars on this and that. You can even set up categories to where this was personal, this was business, things like that. So that's a really great tool. And you can check it from your phone. And I have the app on my phone, so you can like log in from your phone. Like I've been let me see, do I have enough money for this? I can log into my account. All of my accounts are set up in mint.com, so I can see my account balance on any of my accounts, business, personal, PayPal, everything, all at one time from that app. So that's the free option if you're not in the position to get QuickBooks or pay for the training and things like that.
Yeah. Bernadette, can you speak to the need? You just mentioned personal and business. Can you speak to the need for authors to have a separate business account or not?
Oh my gosh. I think I just got like chills all over my body.
Well, everyone does it, so can you just give us the basics on that?
Yeah. So even if you haven't gone to the lengths of setting up a separate company, you should still have a separate account. So even if you're writing checks when you sell books and they're writing checks to Bernadette Harris, you still should have a separate account. It just makes it a lot easier when you have a separate account for your business and your personal. Couple of reasons why. When you're running stuff through business and personal, I guarantee you're going to forget some stuff. You're going to miss out on some stuff. You'll miss out on deductions because you don't remember which month was it that I bought that so-and-so. But if you have everything in one checking account, you can just look at those bank statements, because I really don't need to see your statements with your DSW shoe purchase. That's my favorite shoe store.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
So I don't need to see that. Like, I just need to see the bank statement that has everything for your book, the payments that you made to your graphic designer, the payments that you made to your advertising, the payments that you made for your business cards or to purchase your books and things like that. I don't really need to see everything else.
Okay.
It's like pin drop.
Just keep it separate.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
for real.
I mean, it does make it simple. It makes it may seem as if it doesn't, but it really does, because if you keep it separate, you can just go through that set of bank statements if you have to tally stuff up, and you don't have to go and look, did I put it on my American Express? Did I pay for that out of my debit card? Which one of these cards did I pay for it out of? As opposed to just putting it on one account and just paying for everything on that one account. And some people will say, well, my business doesn't have any money. Then loan the business some money, but just still keep it separate.
Exactly. Bernadette, I love that. We're coming down to the end of the time, but I have one more question that I've got to ask you, because I'm the marketing arm of Write Books That Sell Now, and I know you've had books out before, you're doing all this stuff. Now, you said you wrote the book before. This is kind of an upgrade 2.0 to what you had before. What's different with the marketing now than when you marketed the book before?
Oh, everything. Everything is different. The first book was written 6 years ago. So let's just think about how much has changed in 6 years. A lot has changed in 6 years. I mean, social media marketing has changed since 6 years ago, just relationship marketing, in everything. So I have some stuff I've duplicated. And some stuff I've just done totally new. Like that's not working anymore. I can remember, I remember and there are some pairs because of course I'm that person that has the records, and so I'm looking at what I did the first time, what am I doing now, and I'm like, wow, well that's different. So a lot of stuff has changed. The whole marketing piece of it for me, I'm marketing a whole different way. I was not marketing on social media the way that I am now 6 years ago. And I definitely did not market my book I did market it on social media, but not like this. I think 6 years ago, I just said, hey, I wrote a book, and people said, oh, I'm going to buy it. And now it's like, oh, you wrote a book? Okay, whoopee-doo. Congratulations. You
and a lot of other people. We'll make sure.
Yeah, congratulations.
Right. So what are you doing other than social media? What are you doing differently from a marketing perspective this time that you didn't do last time?
Well, the tour. Okay. So last time I did go to, I think, 2 other places, but they weren't big. They weren't really big events. I did like a really huge one here in Atlanta, and I did 2 in Florida in 2 different cities. So the tour is definitely something that's different, because what I found is everybody's doing stuff virtually. So let me go back to the old school way and do some up in your face personal kind of stuff. And so the tour is definitely something that I didn't do the last time that I'm doing this time. And I think that it's going to be something that's really successful, because social media, as important as social media marketing is noisy, it's crowded. You kind of have to you got to have a mix, and you have to do some new stuff.
Yeah.
Bernadette, you're almost leaving out something that is very, very, very important with your tour that I didn't even know about when I first signed up for your book, because I was just interested in the book. And that is what's happening the day after the book launch. Tell us about that, and then after that we want you to tell us how we can get hold of this book and where we can find you.
So actually, with the workshop, we've actually made a change, and I probably should have told you this. So we made a change because a lot of the participants for the workshop were had conflicts. We had people that want to sign up. So actually doing the workshop virtually. So that's the one piece that will be probably saying, because I would get like 2 or 3 people in this city, and then 2 or 3 people in this city, and you all know. Yes, even though I'll show up for 2 people like I show up for 20, I can't pay for 2 people like I pay for 20.
I know that's right.
So with the workshop, we're actually going to do the workshop virtually, so that we can kind of maximize it and be able to do that, because. And that part of it, when we talk about the doing it scared part, that part wasn't scary. That part was stressful. Yeah, it was downright stressful, as far as dealing with hotels and just the cost to rent a room at a hotel, and it's like, you can have the room for free, just spend $3,000 on food, and it's like, what? Really?
Yeah. So you brought up something different. Now, this is what I talk about in the free video series that comes with that. If you sign up right now, if you guys haven't signed up for the free video series from Write Books to Sell Now, you need to do it. But in my part, my video, I talk about doing virtual book tours. So you're doing a real book tour, but you're having a virtual workshop attached to it. So you got like the best of both worlds. You're actually meeting people in person. They're getting to know you, like you, trust you, and then they're going to be offered the opportunity to be in this virtual workshop where they can meet people from all over, and you can really expand. Hats off to you, Bernadette. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. Are you excited? Are you excited about that?
I am. And also you forgot this part, Carol. They get to get a picture with me so they can sell it on eBay in a couple of years. Cause you know
What? Go ahead. I love it.
Worth so much, you know.
It is. You have spoken it into existence right now. So, without any further ado, before we get off of it, because I know we have held you a long time, but you have such amazing information, we really couldn't let you go. And we could probably ask you 400 or 500 more questions because, we are so deep into that. But what we're going to do is actually go to the virtual workshop so we can find out this information. So tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get the book, and how can they get involved with this workshop.
Okay, so everything is on trustbernadette.com. That's my website. You can find out about, you can register for one of the book tours. You can get information about the workshops and any of the other things that I'm doing, master classes and all of those kind of things. I'm also hosting a challenge for those who are going through the book tour. So the challenge, we're actually going to walk people through setting up their business plan. And this is not just for people who are getting started in business. Some people need a business plan or maybe need to revisit their business plans even though they've been in business. So you can sign up for the challenge on the website. So really, really, really excited. That's going to be something that's going to help a whole lot of people. So I'm on a mission to make sure that people's businesses don't fail. And so I'm doing a whole lot of everything to make that happen.
Ooh, that is awesome. Bernadette, thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of the Write Books That Sell Now podcast. We have totally enjoyed it. And thank you for letting us just take over your whole day here with all these questions that we're asking. So we're going to let you go, but this is not the last time we're going to see you. But I want to now turn to Candace because I know that Candace has a little shout out for us as we kind of calm our minds down a little bit. Right, Candace? What you got for us?
I do. And, I had one book. I do this all the time. I'm sorry. I had one book I was going to shout out, but then Bernadette inspired me with her book to pick another book because if you're in business, you need Bernadette's book, Business Blueprint 2.0. You just need it because you have to have those structures set up correctly. And she put me in mind of this book, which would be a great companion to Bernadette's book. It does not tell you the things that Bernadette tells you, but it's kind of a next step after you get through that. It's called the Biz Plan book, and it's by Natalie Marie Collins. This is the 2016 version. It's a workbook. The 2017 version is available. But what I love about this book is it does the other side of business. It walks you through the other side of business, which is kind of the product creation and marketing plan, content marketing plan. So it actually will help you brainstorm your ideas on these kind of super creative pages and fill in different things.
That.
It looks fun.
It's really fun, but it's also really specific in terms of helping you design a weekly and monthly and quarterly marketing plan for whatever you want to promote for that quarter. So you do need both sides. You need the side of the business where you're producing your content and your marketing, and you need the side of the business that you get from Business Blueprint 2.0, where you set up the right structures. So this would be a great companion to Bernadette's book. It's called The Biz Plan Book, and it's by Natalie Marie Collins.
Awesome sauce. That was wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great compliment. That almost looks like a coloring book. Like it would be a lot less stressful.
It is. It's super fun, but it makes you do some serious thinking about what you want to do as well.
Yeah.
So with that being said, ladies, we want to thank everybody for joining us for another episode of the Write Books That Sell Now podcast. We love having you here. And if you haven't gotten our free training yet, shame on you. No excuses. We'll walk you through all the steps to write, publish, and market your book. It's at writebooksthatsellnow.com/training. And until next time, keep writing.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Find out more about becoming an author and making the most of your book at writebooksthatsellnow.com.